Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. Have a look at the weather warnings. We still have frequent snow and quite a bit of ice around over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, as we are still within this very cold spell that has really encapsulated the first 2 weeks of December. However, as we'll see on the UKV and on the longer range models, it is turning milder from this weekend. Weather fronts pushing up from the southwest, displacing the cold, dense air, and we will be seeing rain around for most, and the temperatures getting up towards the mid to high single digits, perhaps even the low teens in some areas in the south. However, as we do look at those longer range charts, there is the potential that as we head towards the Christmas period, in around 7 to 10 days' time, we do go cold once again. Now, this weekend, the blocking signal doesn't disappear, it just doesn't position itself, or it moves its positioning so that it does not produce a northerly or easterly wind, but it could position itself once again in an area that does pull in that very cold air. We are seeing signals from both the GFS, a little bit from the GEM, and definitely the ECMWF of northerly or potentially easterly winds in time for around the 20th of December onwards, perhaps starting to appear for the Christmas period. Now, as I'm recording this, Christmas is still 12 days away, so we still have significant uncertainty, but it definitely is shaping up to potentially be a colder than average Christmas, and potentially a very cold Christmas from some of the models. And I'd be more optimistic about this than normal, simply because we're coming off a very cold spell. The blocked weather is there, and we'll just have to see how it does develop over the course of the next few weeks. So, as I said, we'll run through what's happening over the course of the next 5 days, and then we'll have a look at the longer range, which of course does just have a look at the Christmas period and the potential weather for that. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see there are snow showers around in Scotland, and they will be becoming more frequent, and down the northeast coast as well, as we do see a push of colder air, or another push of colder air coming in off the North Atlantic and in from the North Sea. So we're seeing more frequent snow showers there and for parts of Northern Ireland. But we do have signs of milder air trying to push in from the southwest. But this first attempt that's coming today is going to be unsuccessful. It's the weekend's attempt, which will break through. However, because this is coming up against such cold air, we are seeing snowfall for parts of southern Ireland, parts of southwest, and maybe central southern England. Could be quite heavy in places. Now, at the moment, we're calling this around 3 p.m, we are in daylight still, which doesn't, especially in these areas where it's very marginal, doesn't encourage snowfall. So at the moment, most coastal and low-lying areas are seeing rain or sleet or some wet snow, sort of a wintry mix, and the higher ground of southwest England and further inland are seeing snow. However, of course, this evening, as more precipitation pushes in, heavier stuff pushes in, and the sun sets, it gets dark, those temperatures start to fall, we could see more widespread snow. We do have a yellow snow and ice warning issued for southwest England, so there could be significant snow in places. Other places right near the coast or low elevation or too far southwards could see nothing. We could just see some very cold rain. So this is an area we really need to keep an eye on this evening. Could be significant snow there, and again, big uncertainty with how far northwards this weather front does push in. Some models having it getting as close as southern Wales, maybe into central southern England, maybe even clipping the southeast, sort of near the Isle of Wight. Others just have it lingering across the far southwest. Now, at the moment, it is over the southwest, but it is pushing in, and we'll have to see what happens over the course of the next 6 to 12 hours before it does move out into France, where it will dump the majority of its snow over northern France. So this could have been a major snow event for most of England if these weather fronts were 50 to 100 miles further northwards, but they are just skimming the south coast, so we're only really seeing snow down there. Now, if we do put on the temperatures, it's another bitterly cold day quite widely. Look at that widespread lighter blues indicating temperatures in and around that freezing mark. The far southwest, with that milder air slowly pushing in, you can see the collision between milder air and colder air, and again, it's where that dividing line is. We'll see the heaviest snow. But we've still got another 3 days now, at least Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, maybe Saturday for further northwards and eastwards, of very cold conditions. And again, we saw a bitterly cold night last night, temperatures down into the mid-teens, negative mid-teens, that is. And of course, we saw the coldest day since 2010 up in Braemar, minus, I think, 9 degrees we saw as the daytime high. So yeah, bitterly cold conditions around, and it will continue for another 3 days. Now, if you put on the weather warnings, you can see we've got widespread warnings at the moment. Snow and ice warning across parts of Scotland. That goes all the way to midday on Friday, just for frequent snow showers and icy conditions. And again, some areas, low-lying areas, could see a few centimetres. Again, depends on the banding of the showers. And over higher ground, could see as much as 15 to 20 centimetres of snow. Again, high likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. But again, some areas will see significant snow, others will see very little. We have an ice warning across parts of Northern Ireland here, again for those showers pushing in onto colder surfaces. Could see some snowfall, but mostly the issue will be ice. There again, high likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix, and then we have another ice warning for the far northeast coast, again from a few sleet and snow showers, nothing significant enough to produce snow accumulations, but fall onto frozen surfaces, could be slight coverings, slight dusting as it says here, and there could be quite a lot of ice, again high likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. And then finally we have this warning across southwest England for some snow and ice causing travel disruption. It's from 6 p.m. this evening until 10 a.m. tomorrow, so Met Office don't think the main snow risk will come in for another 2 or 3 hours. So as you can see on the live radar, there was snow around, but the main snow risk coming in this evening, again, could be quite a bit of snow around. Near some coasts, sleet is more likely, especially at first, but this will bring an ice risk. Strong winds could bring drifting and poor visibility, and over Dartmoor and Bodmin Moor, where the snow is likely to be heavier, there could be 5 to 10 centimetres above 200 metres, and towards north and east area of the warning, small amounts of snow because the precipitation is just lighter and no more than 1 centimetre. Again, high likelihood, lower end of the impact. Again, though, it all depends on whether we get those heavier bands in. 10, 20 mile subtle shifts in the positioning of the weather fronts that the models can't always compute. And it's in with sort of the margin of error, that can drastically change the amount of snow we see from a centimetre or two to 5 to 10 centimetres, and can drastically change it from being rain to snow or snow to rain. So again, it is very much an outcast situation. The warning is issued. If you are in the southwest, be prepared for significant snow this evening, but also be prepared for nothing at all, just some cold rain. Again, very much a marginal event. Again, it will even depend on sort of sea breezes, things like that, exact wind directions. Very small microclimate conditions can decide whether we see a few centimetres of snow or significant snow, or little to nothing and just some wet snow, rain, sleet, things like that. So we'll have to see what happens. If we look at the Wednesday warnings, again, all these warnings still issued. Perhaps a yellow wind warning across parts of the Northern Isles of Scotland, but still, of course, got the yellow snow and ice there. So period of gusty northerly winds on Wednesday. Again, could be some heavy thundery showers within that, so some thunder snow potentially, 60 to 65 miles per hour. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. Thursday still got that snow and ice warning, and then Friday still got that snow and ice warning. Could be more warnings issued, but I'm not expecting anything too significant for the rest of this cold spell. Potentially a few little systems pushing in, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in northern areas, maybe small systems giving more localised significant snow at times, and then of course into the weekend as the weather fronts bump into the cold air, there could be some leading edge snow, and there could be a yellow warning issued for that, but it will be quickly swept away with rain that does push through, especially through Saturday and Sunday. Now we'll be able to see that on the UKV here, the first signs of the breakdown of the cold weather today. Now you can see that we have snow showers in Scotland at the moment, and we have that precipitation pushing into the far southwest at the moment, giving some snow. As it pushes inland, you see more significant snow perhaps this evening around 10, 11 p.m. for many areas across the southwest. Perhaps not the far southwest tips, but again, that will all depend on very microclimate conditions, and as we head through this evening, it eventually peels away around 5, 6 a.m. Now you can see more frequent snow showers in the north, heading into northeast coasts as well. Those will become more frequent, as we'll see on the GFS in a minute, that there is a much stronger northerly wind coming in over the next few days. We had quite a slack flow, and that's meant there's not been many showers around the last few days, but there'll be a lot more around over the course of tomorrow. And that will continue to push in and give quite widespread showers. Could even drift quite far inland. And you can see there across the northeast, maybe signs of smaller systems develop that could give more precipitation in areas, drifting it further inland as well. But mainly the issue will be along the coasts through Wednesday. And again, same into Thursday. more heavy showers around, and that snow really tossing up in northern France there. You can see the bottom right of the image, but again, missing out, but it will bring a lot of cloud and sort of dreary conditions through southern England. Through Thursday, another brighter day further northwards, but still showers on northern coasts. And then eventually, through Friday, you can see the wind direction changing. A westerly flow starting to arrive. Initially could be snow. We could see warnings issued for this, because it could provide significant snow for a time. But you'll see that eventually, more of this turns to rain, especially across parts of Republic Island and Northern Ireland initially in the southwest, but all areas will start to see this fall as rain, exclusively as rain, and you can see by Sunday, huge weather front arriving from the southwest, introducing the real mild air. Look at that, 10 degrees at 850 HPA, piling in from the southwest. Again, I don't suspect it will turn us incredibly mild. Yes, the upper air temperatures will be mild, the surface conditions will inevitably warm up, but because we've been so cold for the last 2 weeks, it will take quite a decent time period to see those surface conditions really warm up, at least 2 or 3 days, and maybe more. So I still do think it will be still be below average, at most average towards the weekend and early next week, even though the upper air temperatures do get very mild. And you can see this even well emphasised on the dew points. Look at 13-degree dew points moving in the southwest, still freezing. So Saturday and Sunday could still be cold in the north and east, but we will be pushing in much milder air for Sunday evening and Monday. Now you can see this all on the max temperatures. You can see today the afternoon temperatures hardly getting above freezing in many areas, more marginal across the southwest, 3 or 4 degrees, but then still around freezing further inland. But another very cold day we've been seeing today and tonight again. Those temperatures widely down to -5 or in around that tonight, especially we have snow cover, and by Wednesday afternoon still hovering around the freezing mark through many inland areas. As we head through Wednesday evening, another bitterly cold night, widely down to that -5, if not lower, through central and northern areas. And then through Thursday afternoon again, another widespread cold day around that freezing mark once again. And Thursday, definitely our last one of widespread cold night, widely below freezing. And again into Friday, another bitterly cold day with those temperatures once again in around the freezing mark. But you can see in from the west, it's starting to turn milder, 4 or 5 degrees. Again, that's cold, but it's nowhere near as bitterly cold as it's been. And you see through Friday evening into Saturday, still a frost around in many areas, but you can see towards the west, 2 or 3 degrees, maybe 4 degrees, so temperatures slowly rising. And by Saturday, still very cold in the north and east, low single digits, but very few areas well below freezing or in around the freezing mark, but much milder conditions arriving from the southwest. And you can see overnight into Sunday, freezing in the north and the east still. We've got cold air embedded at the surface, but much milder air coming up from the southwest that will sweep away the cold air, at least for a time. But as we'll see in a minute, it could turn much colder for the Christmas period. So you do now go over to the GFS and see what's happening over the next couple of weeks. Now you can see northerly winds coming in at the moment, but those low pressures trying to bump up from the south, and that is trying to bring that weather front in, but it's not going to be particularly successful, and we're going to stay with that northerly wind, and it does turn very cold for the rest of this week. As we head into the weekend, though, look at that southwesterlies arriving. The blocking's still there, but it's just positions that are allowing this southwesterly flow to come in. It turns milder for a time, but look what happens through Monday evening into Tuesday. Bitterly cold northerly winds arrive again. Now, not every single model is showing this same type of pattern, but they're all showing that northerly or northwesterly flow at least will return for a time. It's all dependent on how much the block to our west hangs on. Now the GFS here, by this time next week, has us in a cold northerly wind. We'll put the air masses on in a minute. And you can see the blocking actually holds in the Atlantic and builds up towards Scandinavia. And for the Christmas period, we're starting to pull an easterly wind in. This would be probably not particularly snowy, at least initially, but it would be very cold, and in the longer term, starting to pull a bitterly cold easterly wind in with a -10 isotherm just to our east. So this run here from the GFS does hang on to that blocking and does turn us very cold once again, starting in around a week's time, with a 2 or 3 day milder spell within this. We can see that really well by having a look at the upper air temperatures. Very cold right now. Milder air, though, arriving from the southwest through Saturday into Sunday. And then eventually we go very cold once again through next Tuesday and Wednesday. slightly milder air for a time perhaps, but staying very cold under higher pressure, the -10 ice firm trying to push in. Again, high pressure over the top of us, so it wouldn't be snowy at all, but it would be freezing cold, very frosty for Christmas. And eventually, with that slack easterly flow, we could see a few snow showers pushing in. And eventually, we do see slightly milder air, but it wouldn't make too much of a difference towards the surface. We start seeing northeasterly or easterly winds start to push in for the end of the month. So GFS operational run today going bitterly cold in the longer term. Again, you'd think if we had a look at this in sort of a normal December, we'd say this is very optimistic, unlikely to happen. But considering what we've had the last couple of weeks, the blocking pattern is there, and generally it does hang around for quite a period of time. So even though, yes, this is one run, we haven't got huge support within the ensemble members, I definitely would say this is a real possibility, or at least some of this is a real possibility in terms of cold weather arriving for at least for a period towards the last 10 days of December. I do think there is a real possibility there, and we'll have to see exactly how it does play out. Now, if we do look at the GEM, see how that does compare. Again, if we're going to say it's definitely turning colder next week, we need to see consistency from the GEM and the ECMWF. And then, of course, ensemble support. Now, you can see a northerly wind coming in this week, southwesterly winds pushing in later into the weekend, and then eventually we do see that northerly wind for a time towards next week. We do see slightly colder air push in, at least for the north, and then initially actually coming to the south for a time, but that ridge to our west doesn't hang on, and instead we do go more of a westerly flow. High pressure still is trying to take over, and we do still take reasonably cold up until the lead up to Christmas, but nothing bitterly cold, just generally below average, would be frosty, very little snow around at all. So again, GM definitely trending more towards a blocked colder pattern, but again, not evolving anything near as cold as what we have now, and nothing like the GFS. But interesting trends, as a few days ago, all the models for leading up to Christmas were all showing a flat westerly, and at the time, I said I very much think that is unlikely, because this block is not just disintegrating away, it's not going away anytime soon. Yes, it may transition to another region in the Northern Hemisphere, and sort of impact our weather to a lesser extent, but I don't think it's disappearing, and there is a real chance it does return towards the end of the month. Now, if you look at the ECMWF, which also does something very interesting at day 10. Now, if you run through it, again, you can see a northerly wind coming in this week, very cold. The southwesterly winds arrive, and then again next week we go into a bitterly cold northerly wind by around Tuesday. So 2 or 3 days of mild weather, and then back into the northerlies. The high pressure tries to hold on at day 10, and interestingly, we start to see a sliding low. Now, typically a sliding low here that you can see exiting out of northeast Canada, where you can see the low is very elongated, it's weakening as well. You can see those blues are weakening, and the central pressure is weakening as well. It's signs that high pressure block is building towards Greenland and the North Atlantic, and what you'd expect if you run this on another day or two is this low pressure to slide through the UK, perhaps bringing slightly milder air for a day or two, for exiting down into Central Europe or down into the Mediterranean, and then pulling in this northerly wind or northeasterly wind. That's what you'd expect from this chart if you did run it on another day or two. So ECMWF, again, not showing anything bitterly cold in the day 10 time frame. Definitely colder weather, colder than average conditions, potentially even next week with a brief northerly wind. But it's how it evolves after that. Both the GFS and the ECMWF have that blocking coming back to the North Atlantic and Greenland, and the GEM suggests it for a time, but the westerlies flatten it. So definitely interesting signs, and we are seeing this from repeated runs as well, and the ensemble members are slowly trending colder as well. Now, if you do look at those ensemble members, have a look at the GEM first, the GFS first, very cold the next 3 or 4 days, big rise in upper air temperatures with big precipitation through Sunday, and then a drop below average, down to maybe -2, -3 from the average of the ensemble members. But look at that, maybe half or more, getting down to the -5 area with the operational and the control run going very cold for a few days there leading up to Christmas. Uncertainty returns after that, with quite a few ensemble members returning towards average for sort of Boxing Day and the days after that, but still quite a few going cold. So again, definitely has trended colder, especially around that 22nd, 23rd, 24th mark. Longer than that, sort of longer in advance than that. Not seeing anything too distinct, but definitely there has been a trend, at least post this milder spell this coming weekend into early next week, of colder weather to return, at least for a few days, and as the GFS and the ECMWF suggest, maybe longer. Now, if you look at the dew points, which are a good indication of the air masses, you can see down towards freezing for the 22nd, 23rd, or 21st to 23rd region, again indicating an Arctic air mass returning, and still quite a few staying very cold dew points still in towards the Christmas period, again suggesting potentially Arctic air masses. And again, if you look at the 2 metre temperatures going up towards maybe 9 or 10 degrees this weekend into Monday, but by Wednesday time, back down to 3 or 4. And maybe Thursday once again, maybe 3 or 4, or even colder, if those conditions do embed themselves. You can see the operational one there is back towards the pattern we have now, where temperatures are around the freezing mark most days. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens here, but definitely GFS operational run and some of the ensemble members and the other operational runs are definitely hinting at the blocking to return and could produce cold weather towards the end of the month, including the Christmas period. Again, normal years, I'd be very much more sceptical of this, but because we've had blocking around at the moment, and that blocking pattern isn't going anywhere within the actual model output, it's just moving around, I do think there's a real possibility that it does come back and position itself to give us cold weather towards the last week of December. Now, after you finish by having a look at the ensemble members from the ECMWF, you see something quite similar, very cold over the next 3 or 4 days, big milder spell towards the weekend into early next week, and then again, a big drop away from the majority of the ensemble members, back down towards -2, -3 degrees at 850 HPA, and see the operational and control run there both going colder. The control run does go milder in the longer term, but for a couple days there leading up to Christmas does go cold once again, and there are quite a few ensemble members that keep us around or below average, and quite a few still, maybe 5 to 10, that keep us cold enough for snow potentially. So again, no huge signal, but there is a trend. The ensemble members and the operational runs for that sort of 21st to 25th point are colder today than they were yesterday, which were colder than the day before. So there is a trend towards colder conditions, but we need to flesh this out a little bit more over the course of the next couple of days. Definitely suggestions of a northerly wind returning for at least a day or two around the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, but whether it lasts into anything longer within the west, whether the high pressure to our west allows a block to build in, we will have to see. But definitely are signs and perhaps trends of something colder returning in the longer term. And of course, people looking at the stats would be very interested in this because it could be setting up a really cold December. We're already 2 degrees below average for the CET, if not more when you start to factor in today and the coming days. Yes, the milder spell towards the weekend will bump that up a little bit, probably back towards -2, maybe -1.5. But if we do see colder conditions towards the end of the month, or even just colder than average conditions, that CET could really be a huge anomaly compared to average and compared to this year so far, where the coldest month so far this year has been 0.8 degrees above average. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, very interesting conditions at the moment, and potentially as we head through Christmas. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay safe out there. It's still very icy and there's still wintry showers around. And I'll see you again for another video soon.